Leonardo da Vinci's Salvator Mundi at Christie's in New York. The painting was sold on Wednesday for $450.3 million with fees, shattering the high for any work of art sold at auction. Benjamin Norman for The New York Times. Good morning. Here's what you need to know. Tax plan under threat. Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin on Wednesday became the first Republican to declare that he would not vote for his colleague's bill to rewrite the U.S. tax code. Other senators also expressed misgivings about the plan's cost and effect on the middle class. The House is set to vote on its own tax measure today. We looked at the key ideas in each proposal. There are tough choices at the heart of the Republican tax bills speeding through Congress, and they make clear what the party values most in economic policy right now: deep and lasting tax cuts for corporations. Our tax and economics reporter Jim Tankersley writes. A new twist in Alabama. A lawyer for Roy Moore, the Republican Senate candidate, suggested that a purported message from his client, written in the high school yearbook of one of the women who have accused Mr. Moore of u.c.l.a. misconduct, may have been forged. The state's Senate race grew increasingly uncertain after 4 more women came forward to accuse Mr. Moore of unwanted advances. State Republican leaders met Wednesday night to discuss whether Mr. Moore should remain the party's nominee for the December 12 special election. No decision was announced until 10 days ago. Black Cube, a private investigation firm established in 2010 by former intelligence analysts of the Israel Defense Forces, was largely unknown in the U.S., but the company is now in the spotlight after the producer Harvey Weinstein hired it to investigate the actress Rose McGowan, who accused him of u.c.l.a. assault. Our reporters got a rare look at the deceptive practices the company used. The end of an era in Africa, in placing President Robert Mugabe of Zimbabwe under house arrest on Wednesday. The nation's military may have foreshadowed the end of more than just one political career. The apparent coup echoed across a continent where the notion of the big man leader is defined both by the lure of power in perpetuity and the risk that, one day, the edifice will crumble. We looked back at key moments in Mr. Mugabe's nearly 40-year reign. It's no Mona Lisa. One of our art critics, Jason Farago, assessed Salvator Mundi, the work attributed to Leonardo da Vinci that sold for a record-setting $450.3 million on Wednesday. His verdict: a proficient but not especially distinguished religious picture from turn of the 16th century Lombardy, put through a ringer of restorations. Other critics said the astronomical price attested to how much salesmanship drives and dominates the conversation about art and its value. The U.S.-led war on ISIS airstrikes have killed far more Iraqi civilians than anyone has acknowledged. Listen on a computer, an iOS device or an Android device. President Trump declared his 12-day trip to Asia a ringing success. In a speech, he said that he had united the world against North Korea and insisted on reciprocal trade from Asian nations. Tom Brenner, New York Times. Catch up at the end of the day. Like the morning briefing, then consider subscribing to our evening briefing. It's a rundown of the day's biggest news and the stories you won't want to miss. Free, right to your inbox. Sign up here. Business. It was one of the banking industry's toughest worklogs during the Obama era. Now, the office of the Comptroller of the Currency is becoming a vital player in the Trump administration's campaign to roll back regulations. Separately, the director of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau said on Wednesday that he would leave the agency this month, removing the major opponent to the dismantling of regulations on businesses and on Wall Street. Time Inc. is said to be in talks to sell itself to the Meredith Corporation in an effort backed by the billionaire brothers Charles and David Koch. A new phone comes out. Yours slows down. A conspiracy? No. Our tech columnist says, U.S. stocks were down on Wednesday. Here's a snapshot of global markets. Smarter living tips, both new and old, for a more fulfilling life. Wealth can cause its own anxieties. Have a home office show it some love. Recipe of the day: rich, fudgy chocolate hazelnut brownies. Noteworthy: an Austrian village in China. In today's 360 video, visit Hallstatt, a small town in the Alps whose distinctive features have been replicated in southern China. A prince throws caution to the wind. Prince Mohammed bin Salman of Saudi Arabia, 32, is taking on members of the royal family, the country's business elite, Iran and Hezbollah. Is he ambitious or simply reckless? Melania 2.0. The clues were in the coats. Our chief fashion critic, Vanessa Friedman, writes about the First Lady's new look in sports. u.c.l.a. suspended 3 men's basketball players who were detained in China for shoplifting but were released after President Trump interceded. Also on Wednesday, baseball gave its top pitching award, the Cy Young, to Max Scherzer of the Washington Nationals and Corey Kluber of the Cleveland Indians. Jesmyn Ward won the National Book Award for Fiction on Wednesday for Sing, Unburied, Sing, a dark, fable-like family epic set in contemporary Mississippi. Ms. Ward also won the award in 2011, for her novel Salvage the Bones. John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation, via Associated Press Best of Late Night TV, Samantha Bee addressed the pervasiveness of u.c.l.a. harassment across the U.S. Each community has to kick out their own creeps. Quotation of the day, Ross 128 is one of the quietest stars of the neighborhood. Xavier Bonfils, the lead author of a paper describing the discovery of an Earth-sized planet that could hold the conditions favorable for life. Backstory: Le Beaujolais Nouveau Esteribe signs bearing these words appear today in restaurants and cafes across France and around the world, indicating that one of the year's youngest wines is available on its traditional release day, the third Thursday of November. Take the experts' advice: today is the day when great gourmets stop drinking the Grand Cru and revel in the simplicity of a Beaujolais. Stephen Speranza for the New York Times. The practice has a long history. It's a time when great gourmets stop drinking the Grand Cru and revel in the simplicity of a Beaujolais, the writer and wine expert Frank Schoonmaker told The Times more than half a century ago. To this day, the Young Wines release offers an excuse to gather with friends to opine on the year's harvest and savor its fruitiness. If you have some spare time, do read this essay by Patricia Wells on the Beaujolais savored in Parisian wine bars in 1982. The Times first mentioned wine from the Beaujolais region in 1873. In 1955, we recommended it as a good picnic companion. The wines are as light on the wallet as they are in the glass, our critic, Howard Goldberg, wrote in 1987. This frivolity makes them ideal quaffing wines for parties until New Year's Eve, when champagne takes over. Besides, they are so short-lived they should be pretty much finished by then. Patrick Bowler contributed, reporting, _______ correction. Wednesday's briefing misstated the quantity of U.S. household waste that ends up in landfills. It is more than half, not a third. Your morning briefing is published weekdays at 6 a.m. Eastern and updated all morning. Browse past briefings here. If photographs appear out of order, please download the updated New York Times app from iTunes or Google Play. What would you like to see here? Contact us at briefing@nighttimes.com. You can get the briefing delivered to your inbox Sunday through Friday. We have 4 global editions, timed for the Americas, Europe, Asia and Australia, and an evening briefing on weeknights. Check out our range of free newsletters here. Follow Chris Stanford on Twitter at Stanford.